What if the very lines on a map could totally reshape your voice in government?
It sounds dramatic, but it's really happening.
Yeah, that's not some far-fetched dystopian plot. It's the opening act of a political drama unfolding right now in two of America's biggest states. We're diving into the surprising, intertwined controversies rocking Texas and California, where both states are engaged in high-stakes battles over how political districts are drawn.
And this isn't just, lines on a map. It feels much bigger.
It absolutely is. It's about the balance of power and, well, the future of democracy itself and what it reveals about the escalating battle for control.
And that's precisely why this is so contentious. These actions are practically screaming partisan power grab for some, and they're definitely making us ask some fundamental questions about what fair representation even means anymore.
Setting precedents too, right? This could ripple across the entire country.
Absolutely.
So today, we'll undertake a thorough exploration of the recent legislative efforts in Texas and California to redraw congressional maps mid-decade.
Which is highly unusual, typically happens once every 10 years after the census.
Exactly. We'll unpack the motivations behind these moves, their current legislative status, the massive public outcry, and the surprising parallels between these two politically distinct states.
And we're pulling insights directly from, well, thousands of public comments, recent news reports, and online discussions.
Right. Our mission is to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge, helping you understand why these changes are sparking such intense debate and what it all means for your representation.
It's a crucial topic, and we've seen a lot of strong opinions emerge. Let's maybe start with Texas. The proposed redistricting there is generating a considerable amount of heat.
Yeah, let's do that. What's driving this push, particularly now, mid-decade?
Well, the motivation in Texas is quite explicit, and it's coming right from the top, politically speaking. Meaning Texas Republicans are actively pushing this mid-decade plan. The former president, Donald Trump himself, called Texas the biggest one for this effort.
And he stated a goal.
Oh, yeah. A very clear stated goal to pick up 5 seats at the expense of Democrat-controlled districts. He's not exactly, hiding the ball on the partisan aim here.
Right. So the objective is transparent. Strategically reconfigure districts for partisan advantage, and legislatively, where does it stand?
Well, the Texas Senate has already passed these new congressional maps.
Okay.
And it's worth noting that Texas Democrats recently ended that weeks-long quorum standoff, you remember, where they left the state to prevent a vote.
Right, yeah. Big news at the time.
That ended, which ultimately cleared the path for these maps to even be considered in the House.
So the legislative wheels are definitely in motion. But the public reaction, that sounds like where things got really intense.
Oh, absolutely. The sheer volume of public outcry is genuinely eye-opening. Thousands upon thousands of public comments submitted to the Texas House Committee on Congressional Redistricting overwhelmingly oppose this plan.
What are people saying? What's the feeling coming through those comments?
The sentiment is incredibly strong. I mean, bordering on outrage. Many commenters describe the plan as a blatant effort to disenfranchise Texas citizens.
Wow.
Yeah, calling it a disgraceful mockery of democracy and even a grotesque and racist power grab. It's clear people feel very strongly that this isn't about fair representation. It's about shifting power.
And the numbers, do they back up those concerns?
Well, it's fascinating when you look at them. Texas voter registration currently shows a closer split than you might think. It's roughly 46% Democrat to 38% Republican registered voters.
Okay, so relatively close statewide registration.
But Republicans currently hold over 2/3 of the congressional seats. That's about 26 out of 29.
Right.
The proposed plan could push that Republican control even further, closer to 80% of seats.
80%, even though Democrats got nearly 40% of the votes in 2024.
Exactly. Those numbers side by side, they paint a pretty stark picture of the potential impact. It's almost hard to wrap your head around the scale of that disparity.
Yeah, it really is.
And the criticism doesn't stop there. Commenters are worried about dismantling coalition districts.
What are those exactly?
They're essentially districts where diverse groups, often communities of color, have historically come together to elect their preferred candidate. The fear is this plan will dilute the voting power of Black and Latino Texans.
And those are the communities driving growth in Texas, right?
Overwhelmingly. They drive a staggering 95% of the state's population growth. It's incredible.
So this isn't just about party. It's hitting directly at representation for rapidly growing communities.
Precisely. This plan could potentially cut the number of districts where people of color can elect their preferred candidate by almost half, from 13 down to just 8 out of 38.
So they'd hold only about 21% of seats, even though this demographic makes up more than 60% of the state's population.
That's the projection, yeah. It's like having a game where the rules might be written to ensure the same team always wins, even as the player demographics dramatically shift.
The system isn't reflecting who's actually on the field.
That's a great way to put it. It's not just about the numbers, it's about the tangible effect on people's ability to have their vote truly matter.
And the process itself? Was that also criticized?
Oh, heavily. Many public comments described it as rushed, unnecessary, and lacking transparency and accountability. Big concerns.
Like how?
Well, there are concerns that many public hearings occurred before the maps were even publicly released.
Before people knew what they were commenting on.
Exactly. Which certainly fuels accusations of bad faith. Some critics even pointed fingers at maps being drawn by politically motivated operatives from outside Texas.
An outside operative.
Yeah, specifically mentioning Adam Kincaid from Virginia.
So it's not just the outcome, but the integrity of the game itself, like maps drawn in a back room before anyone knew the rules were changing.
That's the feeling many express. And of course, legal challenges are already looming large.
I bet. On what grounds?
Opponents claim the plan is unconstitutional, illegal, and violates the Voting Rights Act. And it's worth remembering, the current maps, the ones drawn just back in 2021, are already under federal court review.
So this isn't exactly new legal territory for Texas redistricting.
Not at all. It highlights the ongoing legal complexities. However, it's also important to acknowledge not everyone opposes the plan.
Okay, so there is some support.
Yes, some public comments actually support HB 4. We saw names like Carrie Huffman, retired from Oak Point, Brianna White, a business owner from Frisco, also Rochelle Wilson from Lamarck, and Crystal Harrison, an executive Toshiba employee from Kingwood. They publicly supported the bill.
And what was their reasoning?
Seeing it as great for Texas and more aligned with state demographics.
Interesting. Any other kinds of supportive comments?
Definitely. Some were quite blunt. We saw quotes like, "To the victor goes the spoils."
Yeah.
And "It's about time Republicans play hardball," clearly expressing support for this kind of aggressive strategy.
So Texas's move is definitely generating immense backlash, but also getting some vocal support for the hardball tactics, which I guess sparks a crucial question. Are other states following suit?
And the answer, surprisingly, is yes. Let's head west to California, where we see, well, almost a mirror image forming.
A mirror image? How so?
Indeed, it really is striking. California Democrats, led by Governor Gavin Newsom, are initiating their own mid-year redistricting effort.
Okay, also mid-year. And the goal?
Their declared objective is very transparent, to explicitly counter Texas's effort to redraw congressional district lines.
The direct response.
And, much like Texas, the aim is to pick up 5 seats. Newsom has even linked his actions directly to fighting for democracy.
It's quite a dramatic turn, isn't it? Especially for California, which has championed independent redistricting for so long.
It really is. And the California Supreme Court has already rejected a Republican legal challenge, so the path is clear for Newsom's plan to proceed.
But critics must be pointing fingers, right? Accusations of hypocrisy.
Oh, absolutely. And what's fascinating here is how the process is being criticized by Republicans in California.
What are they saying?
They argue the plan violates laws requiring a 30-day period for legislation, and they claim maps were unilaterally prepared in secret by the legislature with no transparency to the public.
Secret maps, no transparency. That sounds familiar.
It does, and this is particularly pointed because California established an independent redistricting commission over 15 years ago. It's generally popular.
Right, I remember that being a big reform.
But Newsom and Democrats are proposing to temporarily replace this commission with legislative control for the next 3 election cycles.
Wow. Temporarily replacing an independent commission with legislative control. That's a huge move.
It really is.
Yeah.
Especially for a state that prides itself on that independent process. Former Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger criticized this fiercely. He called it evil.
Evil. Strong word.
Yeah, stating it's truly evil for politicians to take power from people. His spokesperson even noted he's opposed to what Texas is doing, and he's opposed to the idea that California would race to the bottom to do the same thing.
So it's hitting right at the heart of the Democratic Party's usual stance against partisan gerrymandering.
Exactly. And The criticism extends beyond just party lines. Opponents also include prominent figures like former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy.
Okay, expected perhaps.
But also, interestingly, a socially conservative megadonor, Charles T. Munger Jr. He's known for funding groups opposing abortion rights and promoting certain Christian causes.
So a broad coalition of opposition then.
It highlights just how controversial this move is, even within California's own political landscape. The plan specifically aims to wipe out 5 GOP-controlled seats, a direct counter to the Texas goal.
A direct counterpunch. And it's interesting, some online discussions, like on Reddit, indicate that California might already be more biased representation-wise.
Ow.
Well, the argument is that California currently is already more biased to the left in its representation compared to its population than Texas might become, even if Republicans gain those 5 seats.
Do they have numbers?
Yeah, pointing out California has roughly a 40% Republican vote statewide, but only about 17% Republican representation in Congress currently.
So it sounds like maybe both sides have some explaining to do when it comes to what constitutes a fair map in their state?
That seems fair to say. It highlights that the perception of fairness can shift dramatically depending on which state's numbers you're looking at.
Right. The idea of fairness often gets tangled up in a state's existing political landscape, which might already be skewed one way or the other.
So stepping back, how do these individual state battles connect? What's the bigger national picture here?
Well, when you connect these dots, what truly emerges isn't just a symmetrical struggle. It feels like a new high-stakes game theory of political power.
Game theory. Explain that.
Both sides, it seems, are abandoning traditional norms like only redistricting after a census. They seem to be betting that aggressive self-interest will either force the other side to the negotiating table or maybe secure an unassailable advantage.
So it's less about actually achieving fair maps and more about a strategic land grab.
It certainly looks that way from the outside. This deep dive truly brings to life that old quote, "Politicians choosing voters is the destruction of democracy."
Yeah.
It really highlights the deep tension between population growth, voter demographics, and actual political representation. Look at Texas again. Population growth is overwhelmingly from communities of color, yet the proposed maps could significantly reduce their representation.
A fundamental disconnect.
Absolutely.
It's such a complex issue. And, some online discussions are suggesting the only way out of this gerrymandering hell, as they put it, is bilateral disarmament.
Meaning both sides agree to abolish it entirely, create truly independent commissions everywhere.
Exactly. It sounds hopeful, maybe a bit idealistic given the current climate.
Well, others argue the complete opposite, that one side must act aggressively to incentivize the other to even come to the table.
Like make it worse to make it better.
Sort of. They suggest, pretty cynically, that the whole point should be to make it as hideously unfair as possible to force a deal.
Wow. That's a bleak view.
It's a very cynical, but perhaps some would argue pragmatic view of how to achieve change in such a high-stakes environment. Show just how bad things can get.
It really highlights the shifting sands here. Back to the numbers for a second. Texas, that registration split, 46% Dem, 38% Rep, contrasts so sharply with current representation, over 2/3 Republican. And in California, you've got about 25% registered Republicans, 45% Democrats, but Republicans hold only about 17% of congressional seats.
The numbers clearly show a disparity between the voter base and the representation in both states, just tilted in opposite directions.
Right.
And this all ties back to that national effort, the 2021 Redistricting Reform Act, aimed at banning partisan gerrymandering nationwide.
How did that vote go?
Straight party lines. All Democrats voted for it. All Republicans voted against it.
Which certainly raises questions, doesn't it, about the intentions of power retention on both sides, and whether any real agreement on fairness can be reached when the incentives seem so fundamentally opposed.
It makes finding common ground incredibly difficult.
And that brings us towards our wrap-up for today. We've seen how 2 of the nation's largest states are grappling with this complex, often really contentious issue of redistricting.
Yeah, from the accusations of partisan maneuvering in Texas, driven seemingly by a national political figure,
to California's almost perfect mirror image response, both aiming to solidify power and essentially redraw the map of American democracy midstream.
It's a vivid illustration of how those lines on a map can impact the power dynamics in our nation, far beyond just Election Day itself.
So here's something to think about. When political parties in power on both sides of the aisle engage in mid-decade redistricting specifically to secure electoral advantages, What does that really reveal about the health of representative democracy itself?
Right. Are these actions just, shrewd political strategy in a tough game? Or do they fundamentally undermine the core principle that voters should choose their representatives, not the other way around?
And maybe the biggest question, what incentive truly remains for either side to seek genuinely fair, nonpartisan maps anymore? And realistically, what would it actually take for that to happen?